Ah, Subnautica. This beautiful game sparked a sense within me that few others have managed to achieve. From the moment I set foot outside of that lifepod for the very first time, I was hooked. I often find myself wishing I could go back in time and experience that feeling of wondrous terror once again. That being said, I have learned a lot in my hundreds of hours since my first playthrough, and I wish to impart some of that knowledge onto you. So without further ado, here are 10 things I wish I had known during my first playthrough of Subnautica. Enjoy! Number 1. The main map of Subnautica is absolutely packed to the brim with tons of cool things to explore. But in the beginning of the game, it can be quite difficult knowing where to go, and there is nothing more annoying than discovering a cool location only to become completely lost when you try and relocate it. That is why I recommend you always carry at least one beacon on your character at all times. You can find blueprint fragments all across the starting area, and they are cheap to make, costing only copper and titanium. As you progress throughout the playthrough, and the distances you have to travel get larger and larger, beacons are the gift that keep on giving, keeping navigation simple and straightforward. Number 2. When you leave the lifepod and begin making your first dives for resources, the base 45 seconds of air can be quite limiting. But if you get a little distracted underwater and see your oxygen meter go down to 0, it doesn't mean you have to throw in the towel. What the game doesn't tell you is that you have an additional 10 seconds of air as your vision blacks out, before you actually drown. This buffer zone can easily be the difference maker between a close call and being sent back to the lifepod unwillingly. Number 3. One of the most frustrating parts of Subnautica are the earliest parts of the game where the player doesn't have access to a sea glide. If you have ever watched a speedrun of this game before, you might have noticed that runners will swim on the water's surface before they are able to get a sea glide. This is because the player actually swims slightly faster on the surface than fully submerged. While this means you cannot scan your underwater surroundings while swimming, it can be quite helpful in mitigating the time traveling to fixed locations, such as the lifepod or your beacons. Just note that this trick doesn't work with the sea glide, so you are better off staying underwater once you get a hold of one. Number 4. As you progress throughout the game and begin to find yourself making more complex vehicles and base pieces, you might find yourself needing stalker teeth in order to make enameled glass. As you might already know, stalkers can pick up metal salvage and have a chance of dislodging a tooth upon doing so. To add a little variety to the game, the devs added 4 different textures of metal salvage that you can find around the map. However, these 4 textures are not created equal. Textures 1 through 3 are pretty much the same, and each has a 25% chance for a stalker to drop a tooth when they pick them up. However, texture number 4 is bugged, having a 0% chance for a stalker to drop a tooth. Make sure the metal scrap you give the stalkers is one of the first 3 varieties, and this should speed up your stalker teeth collection significantly. Real quick, if you're enjoying the video so far, you should leave a like so that more people can see it. And if you want to go the extra mile and help me get to 400 subscribers, anyone who publicly subscribes will get themselves featured at the end of my next video. Anyways, back to what you actually came here to see. Number 5. When you begin exploring farther from your lifepod, you are bound to come across what appears to be massive jets of boiling water erupting from the ground. These are thermal vents, and they can be very useful if you are willing to take a little risk. Many thermal vents have small alcoves that contain large amounts of precious resources. If you are feeling a bit peckish, thermal vents can help you out there as well. Over time, small fish will unknowingly swim above the boiling fissures, getting cooked and falling to the bottom of the vents. So if you have good timing and a non-existent self-preservation instinct, you can dive down into the thermal vents, grab as many fish as you like, and get out without taking too much damage. Just make sure you time your dives after the boiling water jets have receded, otherwise it'll hurt a lot. Number 6. Once you begin to get a hold of some better resources, you will probably want to look into creating a new base or expanding your existing one. But don't go installing your bioreactors right away, because Subnautica has a secret power priority system that you can take advantage of. Basically, a base in Subnautica will always try to draw power from the first power station placed down, then the second one, and so on. You can use this to your advantage by building your renewable power stations first, then adding in everything else. This way, your base will only use renewable power most of the time, allowing you to preserve your bioreactor fuel and reactor rods for tasks that demand a lot of power, such as charging vehicle power cells. Number 7. After it explodes, the Aurora is one of the best places to explore, containing food, PDAs, and important blueprints. Unfortunately, the main entrance is blocked by a pile of debris. The developers intended you to use a propulsion cannon to clear the rubble, but if you don't have one yet, walk up the collapsed walkway to the left of the main entrance. Follow this route until you see a small path off to the right, and follow it up to a secondary entrance. Once inside, turn left, walk down the ramp, and jump over the debris to make it in the main part of the Aurora. Number 8. Exploring new areas in Subnautica can be quite terrifying, and one fear that most of us have had at one point or another was being ambushed by a Reaper Leviathan. These highly evolved killing machines produce no bioluminescence and emit loud, echoing calls that can be heard from far away. This makes it quite difficult to tell exactly where the Reapers are located, leaving many to unknowingly swim right into them. However, you can take some comfort in knowing that Reapers only actually spawn in 3 biomes, those being the mountains, dunes, and crash zone. Since Leviathans rarely stray too far away from their spawn points, you are mostly safe if you stay out of these biomes. Number 9. Constructing a Cyclops is easily one of the biggest milestones of every Subnautica playthrough, but due to the vehicle's sheer size and, well, just how expensive it is to make, actually piloting one for the first time can be quite intimidating. You can take measures to avoid going to some of the more needlessly dangerous areas, but the way the game is laid out means that you will eventually have to encounter some Leviathans. At some point throughout all of this, you are going to get attacked. When this happens, turn off your engine and do not try and run away. Leviathans are alerted to the Cyclops based on how much noise it makes, so if you turn off your engine, they will eventually leave you alone. If you try and run, you will continue to get attacked, and you might even attract more hostile fauna to your location. If you utilize this knowledge, the Cyclops can turn from a liability to an invaluable asset when exploring deeper regions. Number 10. While many tips and tricks are only valuable through certain parts of the game, this last one can be used throughout your entire playthrough. One important thing that most players do not realize is that they are a lot more tanky than they think they are. You can survive 3 hits from a Stalker, 2 hits from a Crab Squid, and even 1 hit from a Reaper or Ghost Leviathan. Most enemies are not all that aggressive, choosing to back off a bit after they attack you, and items such as the Sea Glide and Repulsion Cannon make defending yourself entirely possible. In fact, there is only one creature in the entire game that can one-shot you, but since you need a giant titanium mech suit to even reach it, being stranded outside should never really be much of a problem. Oh, and don't even get me started on medical kits. Hey, thanks for making it to the end of the video. Before you go, leave a comment. I respond to all of them and love chatting with you. If you haven't already, you should check out some of my other videos. Well, I'll see you guys next week. Have a good one.